Hey guys, Bobby Hughes here with Point Firearms, and today we're going to be starting the process of making kraut, homemade sauerkraut, out of the cabbage that I harvested from our garden. So I know exactly where it came from, so now I'm reaping the benefits of the labor in the garden, and we're going to be making some homemade sauerkraut. So the first thing you need to start with is a really sharp knife. And of course your cabbage. Some other stuff that you're going to need is I'm going to use a food grade bucket. This is I don't know, probably 2 gallons, 2 gallon bucket. We're going to call it 2 gallons. It might be a little bit more than that. But we're going to get our cabbage cut up, and I'll show you how I cut mine up. And then we're going to use the bucket, and then you're going to need some sort of plate and a mason jar and some salt. Other than that, that's all you're going to need to get started. And you can use a piece of cheesecloth if you want. I'm going to, but it's not required. You don't have to have it. You can also, if you don't have a bucket, a food grade bucket, you can use like a crock pot or a big bowl or anything, pretty much. But anyway, you just need a good place to put it, out of the direct sunlight and kind of cool area. It doesn't have to be dry. It can be a damp area. So if you want to put it in your basement, as long as it's cool, damp, or cool and out of the sunlight, then it'll work fine for making kraut. The fermentation process is going to take anywhere from a week to 6 weeks, depending on how you like your kraut. If you like it really strong, then let it ferment longer. If you like it mild, like I do, then let it ferment a little bit less. Anyway, yeah, let's get started. Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do with your head of cabbage, this is fresh out of the garden, is we're going to give it a good rinse with some cold water and get the dirt and stuff off of it. And then we'll go ahead and peel back the layers that have any tears or anything like that until we get down to the good stuff. Next, you're going to want to go ahead and remove the spine down here. So go ahead and cut that off. And then what I like to do is go ahead and quarter it. Before we cut it into quarters, we're going to go ahead and remove the core here. Now, if you want to, you can go ahead and use a food processor from this point. Go ahead and shred it up that way, or a grater. I like to cut mine with a knife because it makes long, stringy pieces of kraut. Just cut it really thin. If you want, just cut it right down the middle once. Keep in mind, the bigger the pieces, the longer it has to ferment. Now, once you get started, I've got a half of a head in here right now. I got a half of a head in here right now. So what I want to do is go ahead and crush it down. At this point, I've got half of my head in here. Got it crushed down. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of salt. And then I'm going to let that set while I'll start cutting up the rest of this head. Alright, once you get your cabbage cut up, packed in, this is 1.5 heads of cabbage right here, so you can see it makes quite a bit. But once you get it packed in and everything, and you're going to layer salt on it, so once you get done, you're going to let it set for about 15 minutes and let that fermentation process start. Alright, once it starts, what you want to do is go ahead and take a spoon and just kind of cut down through it. Start mixing it up. During this process, you can add more salt if you're not getting enough fermentation out of it. What this is doing is the salt helps extract the water out of the cabbage, and since it makes its own brine basically. In order for it to ferment, then you have to have that brine. So you want to spend the extra time just adding salt, not too much salt, and just mixing it up to make sure that all the cabbage has salt on it, so that it helps extrude the moisture. And you can see, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but my cabbage is very wet looking, so that's good. It means it's extracting the moisture out of it. And if I look at the bottom, I can see, yep, moisture down there, so that's good. Actually bubbling up a little bit. I think that's enough salt, enough stirring. Take my potato masher and just mash it down real good. it's just going to help to extract the water out of the cabbage. Alright, so once you get your cabbage packed down in there, just go ahead and clean the sides off here, push any cabbage that's left up here down. And I can see the moisture coming out of the cabbage right now, so that's good. It's working properly. So now what we're going to do is take a piece of cheesecloth, push it down inside here. Take a plate and put it down on top of the cheesecloth. Then we're going to set a quart of water on top. Then I'm going to go ahead and take a towel and cover it up, and I'll set it aside, and I'll be back with you at the next step. Alright guys, so it's been 4 days since we initially started our sauerkraut. So we'll go ahead and remove the towel here and show you down inside. I ended up changing out the mason jar with a gallon jug just because it's heavier. And you can see there's a little bit of some bubbles in there and some different things. And so what we have to do now is we have to skim all of this off of here and then just continue to let it do its thing. So I'm just going to take a spoon and try to skim anything that's on top here out. It's really not much foam in here to skim out yet. But we've got bubbles. That's good. That means there's fermentation going on here. So anyway, like I said, it's really not bad. Anyway, but what I do want to do, I think I'm just going to leave that. There's not really much on there to skim out. I'm going to take and rinse the bottom of my jug off here just to keep it as sanitary as possible. If mold was going to grow, it would try to attach itself to the side of this because it only sets down in the water so far. And then it's just dry from there up, so it's important to keep that clean. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and cover it back up and wait about 4 more days, and then we'll check it then. Alright guys, so our sauerkraut has been fermenting for about 4 weeks now, and I sporadically went in about every other day and skimmed the foam or mold or anything that's on top of it off, and washed the jug off like I showed you guys. So it's been 4 weeks now. I'm going to pull the towel off and the jug out one more time, go ahead and skim everything off, and then we'll start the canning process. Okay, so before I pull the plate out of it, I want to show you guys what a good color is here. You can see it's kind of a golden brown color. It means we have a good fermentation. And the smell, the aroma will also give you that the idea of how sour you actually want your sauerkraut. Now you can go ahead and leave this in for a couple more weeks, and you know, the longer you leave it, the stronger it's going to be.
I'm not a huge fan of sauerkraut. I don't eat it a lot. So I'm letting ours go for, like I said, this is 4 weeks. So it's not going to be as strong as regular sauerkraut would be. And so I just wanted to show you. And then also see the bubbles there? That also means that there's good fermentation as well. So I'm going to finish skimming this off, and then I'll be back with you.
Alright, so what we want to do now is go ahead and pour our kraut into our pot. Alright, then go ahead and make sure that everything is chopped up, because it'll stick together into clumps during the fermentation process. So go ahead and chop everything up, and we're going to go ahead and turn our heat on about 6, so medium high. And what our goal is here is to bring this to a simmer, and we want it to reach 180 degrees. And through this process, you want to continue to stir to make sure that it doesn't come to a boil. You don't want to boil it, you don't want to burn it. Alright, so you got to keep it stirred. So continue to stir it. You want the whole contents to be at least 180 degrees though, because that's when it's going to kill off any bacteria that may have formed during the fermentation process. So we're going to go ahead and let that simmer for a little while. So in the meantime, what we're going to do is go ahead and make some extra brine. Sometimes when you go to can your kraut, your brine you're not going to have enough brine to top off your jars. So what we're going to do is go ahead and make some brine. So what I've done is I've moved my kraut back here to simmer, and I've got 2 quarts of water in the pot here. Now you're going to add 1.5 tablespoons of salt to water, and that's it. That's all you have to do for the brine. So we did 2 quarts of water, so 3 tablespoons of salt in with that. And what I'm going to do is just bring that up to a temperature that's too hot for me to touch but not boiling. In the meantime, you also want to keep an eye on your kraut. Make sure that you're stirring it and that you're not letting it get stuck to the bottom of the pot or get too hot in the process. Alright, so my brine is about as hot as I want it to get now. So I'm going to go ahead and open my pot up and pour my brine into my kraut. Now there's just a little bit of hot water to rinse the rest of that salt out of there. We're going to go ahead and bring our kraut back over here. Now you can see at this point we have plenty of brine in our kraut. We're not going to use all of this brine, but I know that I've got enough, and it'll help me get the cabbage for the kraut up to a consistent temperature. Alright, so like I said, we're looking for 180 degrees. Alright guys, so we're right at 180 degrees with our kraut. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reduce the heat just a little bit, and I'm going to let that simmer at 180 degrees, 185 degrees for about 5 or 6 minutes or so, just to make sure that all the contents
are at the right temperature to kill off any bacteria. And then in the meantime, what I've done is I've had my processor already going here with jars in it. I'm canning in pint jars, and I've got my water in there. I've got those heating up and sterilizing. So when I get ready to pack my sauerkraut, my jars are already ready. So I always recommend going ahead and getting your jars in your processor anytime you're cooking anything. That way you know that your jars are ready by the time your product is done. Alright, so our kraut is ready to be packed now. So I'm going to use a slotted spoon first, and I'm going to pack as much kraut in the jar as I can before I put the brine in. Ladle, get some of our brine here, and we'll just fill our jar with the brine and leave about a ½ inch of head space, so to the second ring on the and check for any air bubbles that might be in there. Usually when you do this, you have to add a little bit more brine. Pop our rim off here. Alright guys, so once you get your kraut packed in the jars, put them back in your processor or in your hot water bath canner. We're going to bring it to a boil. Once it comes to a good steady boil, we'll set our timer for 15 minutes and let them process for 15 minutes. And I'll show you guys the finished product when I pull it out. Alright guys, so that's the finished product right there. We ended up getting 7 pints. Started with 2 heads of cabbage. I would call them, compared to the heads of cabbage in a grocery store, I would call them large, because they were bigger than any head I've ever seen at a grocery store. So we'll say 2 large heads of cabbage, probably 4 to 5 pounds a piece. So anywhere from 8 to 10 pounds of cabbage. We started with in the bucket, and we ended up with 7 pints. So that'll kind of give you an idea of how much you're going to get out of your cabbage. So these are processed now for 15 minutes. So we're just waiting on them to seal up and ping, and we'll let them cool for 24 hours and put them into our food storage. So anyway, guys, that's it for this video. I hope this has been an educational process for you to show you that making your own fresh sauerkraut is very easy and very cheap. The only thing we have in this is salt and jars. Cabbage we grew out of our garden here, so very easy process. So anyway guys, until the next video, get out there and shoot some guns, be safe, and most importantly, have fun. See you guys later.